Even though he's on one of the best teams in football and has consistently been a star, T. Higgins has gone under the radar because of the superstar in Jamar Chase. So how did this all happen?
Pressure. They don't do that a lot. Airing it for T. Higgins on the sideline. Inside the 5 at the 2.
It didn't take long for T to do his thing with the Tigers, as he put up nearly 350 and 2 touchdowns as only a freshman. And so as you could guess, considering the strong start, expectations were high on what he would do the following year. But just like always, T showed up and showed up big.
Renfro still couldn't stop it. Lawrence another deep strike and a catch and a touchdown for T. Higgins.
Going into the season, my man was named a starter and took full advantage of it with over 900 yards and 12 touchdowns on only 59 catches. Production like that is insane for anyone, but it's a different level when you do it in only your second year, and once again proved that T is in a league of his own. After putting up nearly 1,000 yards and a dozen touchdowns through the year, you would think it would be difficult for T to live up to the hype as a junior. But come on, this is T we're talking about. So of course he did, as he put up just over 1,150 and 13 touchdowns, along with a pretty ridiculous nearly 20 yards per catch. If you thought that T's sophomore production was impressive, well, he was able to have over 200 more yards on exactly the same number of catches. And I guess the ACC noticed, as he was first team all-conference, following a second team nod the previous season. Nonetheless, after putting together such a solid last few years in Death Valley, it wasn't a surprise that T decided to declare for the NFL draft, in what was an absolutely loaded class, top to bottom, with guys like CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Justin Jefferson in the mix. All things considered, it wasn't a surprise that T wasn't a top 20 pick, but let's just say that he didn't have to wait all that long.
With the 33rd pick in the 2020 draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select T. Higgins.
After what was a really impressive career at Clemson, the Bengals got an absolute steal at 33rd overall because T was coming off dominant play year after year in what was one of the best offenses in college football. Add that to the fact that the team also drafted Joe Shiesty, a stud that put together one of the best seasons in college football history, and it seemed like a match made in heaven, albeit on a team that just went 2-14.
Dalton 2nd and 10, Bryant. Oh, it's picked off Ngakwe!
Going into 2020, it seemed like anything was better than what Cincy did the previous year. And although Joe and T were there and doing their thing, a 2-6 start wasn't exactly all that great, especially considering that 4 out of the losses were one possession. But wait, there's more.
Burrow, oh boy, clutching his left leg.
Joe and T were getting into the groove as they connected for nearly 402 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So the injury killed the momentum quite a bit, and yet T was still able to finish off the season with just over 900 yards and 6 touchdowns, once again proving that he was an absolute stud. T's 67 receptions tied a rookie record set by good old Chris Collinsworth back in '81, and upon that his 908 yards through the air were third among rookie wideouts, only behind the superstar in Justin Jefferson and stellar CeeDee Lamb. So needless to say, T did his thing, and the fact that he put up numbers like that with Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley at Q is all the more impressive.
Pressure coming, Finley gets rid of it and completes it, and there is Higgins slipping a tackle and hurtling over McCain.
With Joe Gould back and his bud in Jamar Chase joining the team going into 2021, the tide seemed to be turning in Cincy. And even though T was no longer the wide receiver 1, him and Jamar were able to become one of the best duos in the league seemingly overnight. Even though Joe and Jamar were able to do their thing once again, T was still able to get some love, with this time nearly 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns in only 14 games, on what was a much better Bengals squad with Joe healthy all season. Not just a few wins better, but a team that quickly became one of the best in the AFC, as Jamar, T, and the underrated Tyler Boyd made them a nightmare to go up against week in and week out.
Quickly, 1st and 10, going deep, looking for Higgins, and caught! Touchdown!
After an underwhelming 2020 season, the Bengals made the postseason in 21, and although they hadn't been there in quite some time, Cincy sure didn't play like that, especially T. Even though he only put up 10 yards against Vegas, my man more than made up for it against Tennessee, KC, and LA, as he somehow put up nearly 302 touchdowns. Cincinnati may not have won the big game, but when it counted, T showed up big time, and upon that quickly solidified himself as one of the most talented young wideouts in football. So considering that he was able to do all of this in the same offense as the upcoming superstar in Jamar Chase, the Bengals were looking super dangerous going into 2022, and even though expectations were lofty, they somehow were able to live up to them.
Barely over 50%, goes deep down the left sideline, and that's caught.
That's T. Higgins.
Just like back in Death Valley, T had the exact same number of catches in both his second and third year, although this time his production took a dip, as this time he only had just over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns through the year. But let's be honest here, it was still a pretty dang good season, and put T over 3,000 and just under 20 touchdowns in his first 3 years with the Bengals. Although T didn't do all that much against Baltimore and Buffalo in the wild card in the divisional, when it counted, he showed up against Kansas City with over 80 yards and a touchdown. Although his stellar play wasn't enough to get them the dub, as they lost to the good old Mahomie.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Sorry to stop the video, but since you're here, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below if you think that T is elite. But anyways, back to the video. Considering all that T has done in the past 3 years with the Bengals, you would think that at the very least he would be talked about as one of the best young wide receivers in football. But the fact that this guy named Jamar Chase is on the same team has led to him flying under the radar. T was overshadowed by Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb as a rookie, and then Jamar the following 2 years. So it seems like no matter what he does, he just stays underrated. All of this would be one thing if he was just playing well in the regular season, but T has shown up time and time again in some of the biggest games, and let's just say that I doubt that will change anytime soon.
Scrambles. Anybody coming with him? He throws to the back line. Got Higgins for 2!
There are only probably 3 or 4 other teams where T would be in a similar spot, because there are not many nearly as good as Jamar. And upon that, the fact that he's playing alongside his former LSU teammate and good friend in Joe Burr has made many overlook the impressive play by T. Every season he's been in Cincinnati, T has shown up and played as well as anyone out there. It's really just Jamar being a stud that is the reason behind all this underrated stuff. Although let's be honest here, I doubt he gives a single care. Because you gotta understand that T is one of the most genuine and hardworking guys in football, and it's helped him put together impressive season after season from high school all the way to the league, and now has him on one of the best teams in the NFL alongside some of the most talented young players in football.
Burrow sets, throws, upstairs, T. Higgins!
Even back at Clemson, although he was all ACC back-to-back seasons, T was still one of the most underrated wide receivers in college football. And I guess that hasn't changed in Cincinnati, which honestly I think is a pretty good thing, because people know who T is. He's not as underrated as some of the young up-and-coming talent across the league, so it's not like he's getting no love. I mean, you know that T is going to put up 1,000 and dominate no matter who he lines up against. So although he should probably be talked about more, none of that really matters. T is one of the very best one-on-one receivers in football, at least based on whatever the heck PFF looks at. So that alone should be proof that he's doing his thing no matter if he's underrated or not. And it's one of the main reasons why the Bengals have one of the most dangerous offenses in the league. On one side, you got Jamar Chase taking the best cornerbacks and opening up one-on-one opportunities for T on the other, which has allowed both to eat and makes for one of the best wide receiver combos in football. So even though many are speculating that he may leave Cincy with his contract coming up, I doubt that T would want to go from not just a contender, but an offense as firepower as the Bengals to a half-decent team, where he would probably have to carry a much larger load for simply some extra cheddar. But hey, you never know nowadays. Anyways, what do you guys think? Is T overshadowed by Jamar in Cincinnati? Is he going to leave for a few more bucks? Or am I just talking nonsense? Comment down below your thoughts. T. Higgins is one of the most talented players in football, so underrated or not, he will keep doing his thing. And let's just say, I doubt that will stop anytime soon.
They rush 4. Burrow going deep for Higgins. Oh, what a catch at the 1!
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below your thoughts. But anyway, see you all soon, and have a good rest of your day.
I'd probably have to say an eagle.